kisses. Arms. Yes. Very gentle. More kisses. Good girl.
First of all, when life with our baby is proving tough, we need to do some problem solving. So to solve a problem, we clarify what the problem actually is. We brainstorm for solutions, and it can help just to write these down. Then we pick out what we think might be most effective, put an action plan in place, give it a go, and then review a bit further down the track to see what's working and what isn't, and then make adjustments. So there are 5 main areas in which problem solving is often required when we have a baby. Firstly, we now know that if parents want to enjoy the best possible mental health in the year after their baby's born, they need access to effective strategies for breastfeeding or bottle feeding problems, for sleep problems, and for baby cry fuss problems. Yet the research tells us that much of the advice parents receive on these topics is conflicting, not evidence-based, and sadly very often doesn't work. Over the past 15 years, we've researched and published the Neuroprotective Developmental Care, or POSSUMS programs, which are clinically effective both in our early evaluations and in the experience of the many parents who've come to see us over the years. Our programs offer strategies to help babies cry and fuss less, down to half as much crying and fussing. Gestalt breastfeeding helps resolve fussing and back arching at the breast, or difficulty coming on to and pulling off the breast, as well as nipple pain and marathon feeds. Sometimes the baby's developed what we call a conditioned dialing up at the breast or the bottle, which can be helped. Many popular approaches to baby sleep actually worsen babies and their families' sleep in the long run. And we would invite you to look at the POSSUM Sleep program if you're having sleep concerns. Also, babies often cry because they need richer sensory stimulation than our low sensory interior environments offer. So planning days in the company of friends, in outside environments or public spaces with lots of walking is really important for our mental health. Just make sure you take the covers off the pram. Secondly, if you feel your team, that's you and the baby's other parent, and anyone else closely involved in caring for your baby, aren't working so well together, problem solving is definitely required. And this might mean setting aside time together so that you can check in with the others, clarify values, brainstorm about the problem's plan. Perhaps the problems may be such that you decide to see a relationships counsellor. Thirdly, practicing ACT is a powerful form of self-care. But don't forget that active problem solving with your support person around how to make time for the nurturance of your own needs is vital. Fourthly, later in this film, we teach you some strategies for managing your feelings of distress as you care for your baby. Feelings of distress that can sometimes come up. But these strategies are not intended to substitute for practical steps that can actually make your baby cry less. For example, the popular sleep training approaches advise parents to keep on teaching babies to self-settle with persistence and consistency, despite the baby signalling or cueing that he or she is upset. which naturally makes parents feel quite upset themselves. In this situation, we would not recommend that you use ACT to help you persist with an approach that's regularly dialing up the baby and therefore dialing you up too.
I wish when I was a young mum that someone had said, if it isn't working, then try something different. I wish I'd understood that it was an option to follow my values rather than the rules. I thought to be a good mother, I had to just do the same thing better. And if it wasn't working, that was my fault. I obviously wasn't trying hard enough or not doing it right.
Here at Possums, we know from the research that the popular sleep training approaches, sometimes known as responsive settling or controlled crying or controlled comforting, actually don't decrease night waking overall for most families. We also know that your distress when your baby cries is a biologically normal, healthy response. So even though you can't always dial your baby down, we want to support you in responding to your baby's communications as best you can, creating patterns of responding over time, because this is best for your baby's secure attachment and best for your enjoyment of your little one, even if it doesn't always stop the crying. If you're dealing with excessive night waking, take a look at the Possum Sleep Film, because excessive night waking can be improved without resorting to sleep training approaches. Especially in the neurologically sensitive first 4 months, our babies sometimes get into crying loops. There's not always a lot that we can do to dial them down. This is an example of when it's very helpful to use ACT strategies. So let's say you're driving baby to something that you've arranged or want to do outside the house, and the baby screams in the car. You know it's definitely in your and the baby's best interest to be out of the house, living a life that's rich in sensory and social experience. Although you might stop and see what you can do to settle the baby, in the end it helps to use ACT strategies like deep breathing, conscious muscle relaxation, making room for the distress that you feel as your baby screams in the car seat, at the same time as you bring your attention to the road, to the environment, and the careful physical act of driving the car in order to get there safely, so that you and the baby can then get on with a satisfying day.
Having the support of other parents can make a big difference to our enjoyment of our baby, and we'd encourage you to take a look at PIPS on the Possums website. You might be interested in finding a parenting partner, someone who'll keep an eye on you and support you, and vice versa, which is something we can help arrange in our PIPS program.